Good evening, and we are ready to do a little something, something. Well, we don't say, we just call it a little something, something in the spirit.
Mm-hmm. Just a little wisdom.
Just a little. If I could find that intro, that would be great. We started on, what was it, 38, what was it?
We started what?
1380, the first radio station.
No, it was Heaven 1580.
Heaven 1580. That's what it was.
Yeah, it was Heaven 1580.
Heaven 1580, and to see how many years ago that was, because we was doing that even before we did we did a church? Or?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. I'm not sure. Because we started, I don't think, no. The church was first.
Yeah.
Right, and so we did the church, we followed that call, but right after that, we did a little something, something in the spirit.
Mm-hmm.
And what I thought, how we came up with that title was, each time we're just going to find something in the flow. We're going to find something in the spirit, and we don't know what it is. Mm-hmm. But the goal of a little something, something in the spirit is to take you to a higher conscious level. Mm-hmm. To help you elevate your conscience, mm-hmm. help you, give you the strength to be able to modify your thoughts, mm-hmm. and the ability to make the necessary changes. Mm-hmm. That's why we always said keeping it real, because mm-hmm. keeping it real has to do with being able to speak the truth that many people won't speak, but they speak it.
Right. And the shift that we're coming from is to inside.
Right.
So that's why it's a little something in the spirit.
Right.
So we changed lives from the inside out has been how we felt about what we.
You would say that, Lord, I don't think they heard you.
We changing lives from the inside out is what we believe is, because we used to talk about the scripture that says if you clean the inside of the cup,
but the outside.
If you clean the outside of the cup, but the inside is unclean. But if you clean the inside of the cup, then the things on the outside will line up. That's what the scripture basically says.
And so what we hope to do, and this will be, we believe that these principles apply to family. It applies to mother-daughter, father-son, father-father, you name it. Though any type of relationship in the family, because they're all based on relationship principles. Mm-hmm. And so I'm hoping that you'll be able to glean from what we're talking about nuggets for yourself, no matter what state of life you are in, because you will need this wisdom. Guaranteed, mm-hmm. you will need this wisdom. Mm-hmm. And our goal is to be able to flow. Mm-hmm. Father, we thank you for this opportunity, and I thank you for the moment that we're living in. And I thank you, Father, that you will give us strength and bring peace to the homes of those who are watching, peace to the minds of those who are watching, those who are listening. They can't see, but they can listen. And we would ask you to bring them peace, and anybody who's going through to have peace, and help tune up some people who are having great relationships, great family relationships. We pray that they would have peace, God. We give you all the honor and the glory, and we thank you that we will flow through this according to your purpose and your will. A little something, something in the spirit, just a little wisdom. In Yeshua's name, amen.
Amen.
Good evening. We're doing something. I just realized we haven't done an evening. What's happening?
Oh, something just popped up. I don't know what that is.
We haven't done an evening thing in God knows how long.
Because it's something. We were talking this morning. This is how we got here. We were talking and doing our regular service time was this morning, mm-hmm. and then we were getting way up to the time where we would normally stop, but we weren't finished. And we realized that, you know what, there's something else. We're not finished talking about this thing, so let's just go ahead and do overtime. Right. And that's how we got here. This is what we call overtime.
Yeah, again, we flowed. I had no idea I was going to be doing something like mm-hmm. this. So much so that I just got this thing uploaded, and so I'm going to have to call the shots on this, and we can go from there. And this is what we're going to deal with is principles that we learned, mm-hmm. and I had to learn, and I call it, so that you know, that I call this, what do we call this, the power struggle.
The power struggle. Mm-hmm.
And hopefully we will be able to cover get to that and cover the power struggle that we're going through, because sometimes we love one another and we love each other, but in us loving each other, we end up struggling, and we end up in that constant fight. Right. And when we get into that fight, it becomes taxing to us.
Right, and I think when we in a power struggle, when we don't understand how to handle our own heat, and I'm saying heat in a good way, we'll get to what that means later when we talk about fire. But the power struggle, I did a lesson, I have it in front of me, but I'm not going to talk about it, but I like to, when I taught it in 2014, it was called 2 Leaders in Love. 2 Leaders in Love.
Wow.
See, when you have 2 leaders in love,
you know, I made this in 2014, so we must have did it at the same year.
Oh, I don't know. I just got a lesson.
Look at that. Power Struggle 2014.
Okay, and I pulled this up from one of my old lessons to see what I talked about back then, and it was 2 leaders in love, because I understood that we had to know what to do with how God was using each of us, and I couldn't be assigned a role.
There you go.
You know, and it started off, and that becomes very easy, very frustrating for women, but very easy for other people because they just assign roles.
Right. You got can I have a piece of one of those papers?
Yeah, I got one. Let me see. I don't think I need this one. Hold on. I'll get it later.
Thank you. And that's really good to hear that.
Give me that one back. I better give you this one.
Okay.
I might need that. Right. And so, you know, what typically happens so much is that somebody gets talked out of their power, because of this is how we saw the power struggle, instead of learning how to handle our heat. And I'm not just talking about anger. I am really talking about power.
Right. And so I'll just say, love is a dance, and the love dance will draw to a close. And you are now my lover. I love you. Now I expect you to meet my need for fulfillment. And so when the dance ends, we go from euphoria and romantic love. Romantic love must give way to reality. And once romantic love gives way to reality, that euphoria leaves. And you begin to want them to meet, you're my lover, and I expect you to meet my need of fulfillment. Now, this expectation, and as we'll get into it in a second, this expectation is unspoken. And in that being the case, we don't see that romance was the drug that made us believe in the illusion that we had created. And so romance, when they say love is blind, they're talking about sometimes you can fall in love with someone and you can't see what's going on until life shows up. And that's when you know, okay, we do love each other. We've got to get through and do what we have to do.
All right. And sometimes the realities, the reality that makes that thing stick, that makes you go into a kind of friendship that is tested, it doesn't show up right away. The big ones that let you know what you're made of and whether what you have is solid or not.
Right.
And I can think about the fights that we had, the not physical, right, but the discussions, the type of discussions. And I wrote this to somebody today. Today we misunderstand each other like friends. We argue like friends. We so whatever we do it like friends. So we experience reality now, but we experience like friends. And what was that? It was in our communications. Yeah. It was the communication. Meaning this: when we disagree, even when we disagree, what we call it, ambition and assertive disagreement, even when it feels like a power struggle hot. What we don't do is no name calling. And we agree to disagree. But what you don't do is we don't name call. When you start name calling and then you start pulling out those things, characteristics and downplaying each other's value, then when that skirmish is over, guess what remains? All the name calling, whether a person really meant what they said, All of that. And I'm not talking about whether your volume goes up and down, because sometimes you just don't have it on certain days to whisper. But right. And I shared this to my daughter, and I shared this to the different women that I've had opportunity to walk with. No labels. Mm-hmm. Learn how to communicate without labels. That way, when it's over and most things die down, you don't have to go clean up another mess created in this situation.
There you go. And so once the love dance draws to an end, mm-hmm. and now it's life, mm-hmm. and all that romantic string music and all that leaves, playtime is over. Mm-hmm. And although you've gone to every restaurant in the area or every certain thing, you've on these dates, it's time to satisfy my unspoken list of needs. And so when playtime is over, now this is what happens unconsciously. Mm-hmm. It's time for you to satisfy my unspoken needs. And in some conscious needs, some I'm conscious of, while others lurk below my awareness. Mm-hmm. And so what I found out, Jill, is that when we got together, we began, I didn't know there were some things that were below the waterline. Mm-hmm. that I couldn't see. Mm-hmm. And it wasn't until we got married, it wasn't until we became great friends and we got married, that once the chaos, once life started, then there were some things that were below the level that was not in our awareness. And I didn't even know I had those kind of habits, if Absolutely. That makes sense.
It does. And I believe that's what relationships do. There are some things about myself I wouldn't have discovered mm-hmm. if after you rubbed me wrong or went too far in my mind or hit a nerve, then I could just go to my home. Mm-hmm. I can go somewhere else. I didn't have to deal with it, but because I couldn't leave, mm-hmm. and I had to deal with it. And some people that you get this from children. Mm-hmm. You know, you have to grow with children. See, I can say this. It's 28 years now we've been married, but I can tell you that. Today I get to say to people, you have to grow in each other's spaces. Mm-hmm. That means I have to have trials and triumphs and errors mm-hmm. in your space. And it's going to feel like it's changing the peaceful mood that you desire. But where else am I going to grow if I can't do it in your space and we live together?
My lover, my friend, you get a pass. It took me a long time to learn that. She gets a pass. And as much stuff as I've done and you still love me, I can't have an attitude on some idiosyncrasy or something that goes down. Mm-hmm. You're my lover, you're my friend, and you get a pass. Mm-hmm. Go ahead. Mm-hmm.
And you know, I could tell you when you were talking about the particular things that come out, I know one of mine was that when you would swipe your hand, we'll be talking to you, would just do that. And I would take that so personally. Right. And I'm not saying that I love it. I'm not saying I love it now. I'm saying I took power away from it. Right. I gave that power in my life. And the reason why I had power in my life is because when I was younger and I wanted my mother's attention and this is how I feel, this is mm-hmm. what I believe, that when I would go to her, I would feel dismissed. Now, I lived in a house where the rent was always paid. Like I told you last week, I had bedroom furniture. I had comforters that matched. So I didn't have a mother who neglected or in the worst way. Right. But the truth is, at some point, you know, it was 6 of us. My father broke up. It was 6 of us. And at the time, my mother had a 9th grade education. She had to go back to school. I think she got her education when I was 15. Mm-hmm. And so she was ready to live her life after my father left with his abusive behavior of her. Right. And then she grew up with an angry mother. Mm-hmm. And so when she got free, she wanted to be free. And, you know, later on I learned that because I understood how I felt with one child. Right. I said, she had 6 of us. But the bottom line is that was a lot for her to deal with. Of course, at that time I didn't know. And so when I was wanted her attention, she was trying to get a piece of life for herself. Right. Wasn't really against me. A piece of life for herself. Those were times I really wanted her to hear about what I did in school, about what my grades were like, and those kind of things. And she didn't have time. So by the time I started talking to you and you weren't present, couldn't use those words years ago because I didn't know this new term about being present. But I know that's what it was.
Right.
And you wasn't present. And I remember the day. I remember where I was standing in our home in Clinton, and you did something, and I was so hot. That's what I mean by manager heat. I was so hot. But by that time, I was in a space where I was learning how to live in the truth of myself. And I told you, I said, Deron, when you do that, let me tell you how I feel or how I interpret this thing that you're doing. And then once I shared that truth, then I was able to say to you, listen, I believe, and I might find out different later, but I believe that this came from, me wanting my mother to engage and be present, and she was too busy. And she would come from work and she wanted to go straight upstairs to her room.
Right.
And she didn't want to hear all of it's human. I get that today. I didn't get that then. She didn't want to hear all the stuff I wanted to say.
And one of the things I told you that day was, when I do that, I can now say, because I know myself better now, is that it was such a strong fault that I had to physically do that to block it out. If you felt something, whatever the case may be, and you say, well, I think that you're going to... Ain't nobody thinking about that. But it wasn't against you.
Right. You're saying I'm not thinking about you. You're saying I'm not thinking about that.
Yeah.
Right.
That's it.
I get it.
And I had to push that thought away. Right.
I told somebody the other day, I said, I don't like it. I said, and I told them, because they can take things so personally or feel it in their heart, in their esteem.
Right.
And I said, I'm not telling you I don't like you.
Right.
But what just happened, I don't like this.
Right.
And I've learned, we've learned to help for our language to speak.
Right.
Towards the situation and not so much towards the person.
So there comes a time when being funny, charming, clever, because we assume that people are going to conform to the needs that we have. And so after a while, being funny, charming, clever, being even attractive is no longer enough. Mates will conform. That's what I was trying to say, conform. You are going to meet every need specific but rarely expressed set of behaviors that I have. We don't know how loving express what we don't know how to lovingly express what we need. And because we don't know how to lovingly express what we need, we often get messed up in our communication. So most of us don't even know it, but sometimes we expect traditional roles of people. When you said you couldn't play a role, I learned, we have some friends, and Sunday dinner for her meant something, but for him it didn't mean anything. But he had to learn that love for me is going to Sunday dinner. But they had run-ins because they both had different perspectives on what a good night was and what a romantic or what intimacy was all about. You get it?
I do.
And so we make assumptions that come out of our behavior. And sometimes we don't even understand. We have made assumptions that literally come out of our behavior. And so many of us are legally connected but emotionally disconnected. Some of us have become legally connected and we don't have a connection emotionally. And so why didn't you say anything? We fear. We had the habit that turns into rage. And when I say that, my friends, it's sometimes we have such a habit of being disconnected because we just don't want to feel.
Absolutely. And it's a scary place. It's a scary place to trust someone with something that you think can hurt you so deeply. You almost have to go through it to find out that it doesn't hurt. Let's say this, to find out that you are stronger than you really think you are. But you don't know that unless you face the battle and confront the battle. You don't know that. One of the things, Deron, I've heard women say a lot, and I know where it comes from, but sometimes it gets in the way. And I heard women say, well, when I'm around them, I don't feel safe. Let me tell you about change. Sometimes you are safe, but you don't feel safe because of the way you see safety. You understand? When I have to change, when I have to alter some part of me that I felt very comfortable with, and then I am vulnerable, I'm not going to feel safe.
Right.
But I also cannot grow in life without experiencing some level of vulnerability.
Right.
So then what ends up happening is, and this is happening between me and women, you know, well, right now you're talking, I don't feel safe. No, you don't feel comfortable.
Right.
I know I'm not attacking your person. But now anything that feels like we're not on top or we're not in our most secure, confident state of mind is unsafe. And when you do that, there's nowhere for the relationship to grow, because none of us feel safe in a strange place. The children of Israel did not feel safe in the wilderness. This is why the Father continued to let them know that they were protected, and to lead them by fires and do these different things to let them know they were protected, because nobody feels safe in a strange land.
Right.
And when marriage, I was in a very safe place where I could come and go when I wanted to come and go. I didn't have anybody who I was offending because of something. And so I was in a strange place. That will never feel safe right immediately until you learn how to flow together.
And my response became, when you felt unsafe and you went there, I didn't hurt you. I would say, I didn't hurt you. It was the unhealed wounds that my words touched.
Right. And let me tell you why I didn't like that.
Go ahead.
That's very true. But you know what I didn't like? I didn't like being analyzed. I still don't. I still don't.
Right.
I still don't like you going to get book knowledge verbatim.
Right.
And using it as if they interviewed me. Now that may be me, but that's how I feel. That's the truth. So I have to take that for someone to diagnose me. You understand? And I didn't like it because it didn't feel relational to me. It didn't feel conversational to me. It felt like I was a project.
Right.
You know, I touch your wounds. Listen, I get that. I feel it all up and down here, all the way.
And I think during that time, and I get it when I say it now, some 15, 20 years later, I wasn't analyzing, but when I say it was me understanding, Deron, the emotions that she's feeling right now. You must know you didn't do anything necessarily to hurt her, but like you said, you were responding to some things that it took place with your moms when I did this. But this touched some things that you had not gotten healed. Would you think that's a fair statement?
Well, it was absolute. All of it was true. Okay. It was very true. But sometimes, right when you're in that space where it feels like that, you don't want to go it to just be cut and dry like that. And that wasn't cut and dry for you. That was the best way you knew how to say it. I needed to heal. I needed to take the power away from so many things, take the authority that things and words had over me because of something that was me. So I've learned, guess what? I can tell myself, tell the truth, I can tell myself I got an unclean spirit, but please don't you say that to me. I can tell yourself I got an attitude problem. I can confess to you, yeah, I got an attitude problem. But if you come tell me I have an attitude problem, it feels like something else. And so this is why it's important to examine yourself and beat the devil to the punch. Meaning that spirit to the punch where someone has to tell on you, or what we call it. That's pretty bright. I just turn it a little bit. And maybe do that one. That's good. That's better. Where you feel somebody busting you out. You know, it feels like something. And it's probably ego. Today, thank you, Deron. Today, that's not the case. But back then, I still did not like that, because at that point, when I am wounded and my chest is open, I don't want nobody looking inside and saying, ew. Ew. You know, that's how I felt. Right. You know, no, I'm wide open.
And I didn't have a sense of gentleness, but I want to keep going. The attachment, we have an attachment to unspoken expectations. And so when you become attached to these unspoken expectations, it equals misery. And misery leads to us extreme suffering. It leads to unhappiness, and it causes us to feel very painful in a time or experience, because we don't realize that we are holding somebody to some unspoken expectations that we couldn't clearly articulate.
And let me give you the blessing in that. I can tell you that after being 50, over 55, okay, I'll say it that way. I can tell you that after being in marriage or in this relationship for a long time, and that it was good because I needed those expectations to surface so I can at least find words to express them.
Right.
Because when words are unexpressed, and you know this, y'all know this already, when you don't talk and you keep suppressing things, for many years, it just takes that one situation. And watch out. I will be throwing punches and bunches in this, with words. Somebody's about to get hurt up in here. Don't make me see. All of that is there. This stuff needs to be drawn out, because at this point it is no longer your friend, it's your enemy. And I needed to be able to say to you, Deron, this is what I like. Mm-hmm. This is what I don't like. But I didn't know how to do that. What I would do is take the feelings. Once I felt like you did something that I didn't like, instead of just being honest, because I thought that was weak, right, about not liking it, I'm going to go off on you. You rude. You're this. Because I feel a certain way. So now I'm going to put all these labels on you because I'm trying to make you responsible for these feelings that I had.
And that's where I came up where I said, we're just going to go through every letter of the alphabet. There's going to be one more thing, because you were very specific on what was happening. And I would say, Jill, I'm able to have these discussions, but I need you to know that when I finish having these discussions, it takes me a few days or a couple of days to get past all of the different labels and the things that you did, because I know that you love me, but at the same time, it hurt.
Listen, feelings that are buried alive don't die. Mm-hmm. Feelings buried alive, they don't die. You just bury them and they are alive.
Right.
They are alive and they come out alive. And if you keep them in the dark too long, they come out with claws and looking like a monster. But and I'll say this last thing with communication, because it's an evolving, and this is why relationship has to be open, even if it's not safe.
Right.
It doesn't feel safe. It needs to be open, because I went from protecting myself, right? Protecting myself from what I thought you were trying to do to me, and being angry, to crying. Couldn't talk without crying.
Yeah, that used to mess me up.
I couldn't talk without crying.
And you would begin to cry, and I would say, well, this is unfair, because you can't talk, and your tears would make me angry, because I now understood I hurt you. Right, absolutely. And I'm not saying what I was angry was right, because today if you cry, I'm not going to get it.
Well, you didn't want to feel like, I get it. The work of the adversary is accusation. And so you took my tears as a way, because we talked about this over the years, as a way for me to be accusing you of doing something wrong. And then now I'm all choked up. I had that thing in my throat. Y'all know what I'm talking about. Where I just couldn't talk. Because and so I couldn't express myself. So little by little, I had to be able to express my feelings. And I had to stop looking for a space that I called safe. Because the only way he could be as safe as I wanted him to be, he had to be one of my girlfriends. He had to be one of my girlfriends. He really did. I needed him to know how to vibe like somebody with a vagina. And he needed to be, I'm saying this to ladies. I'm telling you, he's not your girlfriend. And so I had this practice, and I shared this with women. Listen, when it first comes to you, call one of your girlfriends and get some of that emotion out of your talk. Just some of it, so that when you talk to a man, he needs instructions. He's going to want to know, what can I do about it? Right. But you can't do anything about my feelings, because they were mine. And they weren't yours. And no matter what I feel, you can't feel exactly what I feel, where I feel it, the way I feel it, because those are my nerves. Right. And it's inside my body. Right. And and ain't enough things I could say to get you to feel that hole in my soul at the time. Right.
And I also had to give you the space to be free to feel.
Absolutely.
And I was thinking about, we began to learn. Are you talking? Are we talking? Or are you just venting?
That was so wonderful.
Or are you just venting? What is so wonderful about that? Wonderful.
Because for me, you would say that, but what you would say somewhere in the same space in the mornings, this is when we both grew something. You would say, "What's the weather?
Yeah, what's the weather like? Yeah,
what's the weather
look like?"
And I had to be honest with myself that either I was still frustrated from the night before and was carrying something over, but the great thing is it was now up to me to be honest and say it's a little cloudy out.
There you go.
And then not be rejected by him. It's just it's so much foolishness.
And you know why I asked what the weather was? Because if you say it's sunshine, then I know we're gonna have some good times.
And you know how to respond.
And you say it's a little cloudy. I didn't say, well, what's it cloudy for? No, she told me the weather was cloudy. You said it was cloudy, and when you said it was cloudy, then that meant that I needed to humble myself and allow you to get through wherever you need to get through, and then in your timing, because you're going to share with me what you're going through, but I'm going to ride low a little bit.
Right. And back in the day, I wanted him to be able to fix that for me. I didn't want to go through it. I'm glad I did go through it because I'm a better person because of that. But I wanted to, and I told this story for anybody who's heard this, we say this before, when we had an altercation many years ago, a disagreement, and I stormed out the door. Okay, this is what I did. I said, "Don't touch me." I was playing one of those roles. I really didn't mean this, but it was
I know it is. I came upstairs to give you a hug, and you said no
because you came to give me a hug after we had, because I wasn't as quick to forgive as he was back then, and you came to give me a hug. We had a little disagreement, and I didn't want to let it go. You would let it go, and the way you would let it go is to say, "This is done. We've talked about it. We're gonna agree to disagree," or something like that. And you came to give a hug to reconnect.
Right.
Okay. By this time, I wanted more from you. So I did that thing that some folks do. Don't touch me, don't touch me. Oh my God, that was so terrible. I'm so sorry.
And I felt so rejected. I was like, man, what's happening?
Well, I ain't see that part because I stormed out the door.
Well, I'm saying I felt it, but I just kept moving forward.
It was a curtain call. I was going for it.
Okay.
I did all that. I stormed out the door. I went out and I took a ride because I told myself I was that bothered over whatever it was that I don't even remember today. But I stormed out the door, and then when I came back, he was in here with a cup of coffee, the business star, Borders books, reading, smiling, looked like in his right mind. And I'm saying, how can you be in your right mind, right?
Right.
How can you do that when I'm going through this? And that's the day I learned. And why does he have to be that? Why does he have to be miserable because you're miserable?
Right.
Jill, where did you get that from? And whatever that belief is steeped into, or that action or that thought is steeped in, you need to go check that. Because the truth is, if both of y'all are out of commission, then the house, there's nobody to guard the things in the house and to watch the house. And especially for you all who have children, because both of you are now out of source. Who's going to govern the children? Who's going to do that? And so I learned that day that you cannot expect him to be miserable. Why do we think that somebody's love is you being miserable with me? That's what I knew. I just said, Jill, you are stuck on stupid. That is so ridiculous of you. But guess what? If I didn't go all the way through that, then my thoughts and my disturbances would not have been exposed.
That's it. I'm just really thinking about that. That's serious. And we had a rule: only one crazy in the house at a time.
Only one crazy in the house.
One crazy person in the house at a time.
Now, after a while, he used up most of the sick leave. The mental sick leave. But by that time, we could laugh at this stuff.
Yeah, that's what's up. And so now the expectation that those we're in relationship, you said this, you said you needed for the expectations to surface. You needed that to surface. Well, the expectation that those we're in relationship will become mind readers. If it doesn't surface, we'll become mind readers, mood sensors, and sensors of things that were never spoken.
Absolutely. I used to tell my daughter, and my friend Lisa would tell her daughters when they would kind of use their facial expressions to try to send a message, and she would say, use your words. Use your words. First 2 years of marriage or so, I'm washing clothes, I'm coming down the stairs with baskets. Deron is tunnel vision.
I'm looking at sports or something. Your mind was creating during that time. Boyfriend, girlfriend, okay, right.
Other things, other plays were being created during that time. And I, once again, wanted him to prove to me that he loved me by noticing that I was struggling. Now, I'm not going to use my words. So I waited until he came into the door. Now, I've been married 28 years, so I'll tell you this is a long time ago. I waited for him to come into the door. Then I came carrying a basket downstairs, bumping all into the wall like a bumper car. Why? Because I want him to notice, I need you to help. Guess what I should have said on my mouth? I need your help.
Yeah.
I need your help. But because I did not want to hear something other than I really wanted to hear, then I didn't use my words. I tried to get you to read my mind or my expressions or my sadness or my moods.
Right. And so when you did that, it got to a point, if you didn't talk, then how would I know that you were hurt? How would I know that you were?
Because you was going to leave your life and your joy and pay so much attention to my life that you would have to live like you had no life because of me. That which is ridiculous to me. Right. Because that's not love to me, because that's not me loving him. That may be him loving me, but that would not be me loving him.
There you go. And so with you ending on that, I'll say his expectation is that we'll have traditional as well as, and he had upbringings. And her expectation of traditions means something else. And these expectations are unconscious or semi-conscious. And we have a long list, and I guess I actually dealt with that already. We have a long list of what we expect. There you go. Remember the Ocean City trip to go visit your sister?
Oh, Virginia Beach.
Virginia Beach, right. Virginia Beach trip. And that was one of the trips where I was going to get a couple of days rest. I wasn't trying to hang out with her sister and her sister's husband. I was just going to get some rest. And y'all was trying to go to get something to eat and that kind of stuff. And I'm sure you can refresh my memory even more.
What I can tell you today, for real, is that I was people pleasing. I really didn't want to hear what they were talking about.
Okay.
I really didn't want to be a part of what they were talking about. But I wanted my sister, I'm the youngest, I wanted my sister to feel good about me being there. She had lived in another state most of my life, most of my adult life. And so when she came in, I was doing the thing. It wasn't no real tradition. I was doing the things that people say you should do. And I was trying to be around that. When I would come over from around, I was exhausted. But the truth is, today I can tell you that I was making a bigger deal out of it because I wanted her to feel a certain way.
Right.
But I didn't consider that you wanted some time, and I could have said, "Hey, we're going to do a little this together. We're going to do a little with her." But I couldn't tell her no. She was really pushy. Probably still is pushy. But back then she was pushy. Or let me come and say it this way: very determined. And I didn't know how to say, no, I don't want to. Ask me today. I'd rather not. I'm all right with that today. But back then, remember, I didn't have words. Right. And I didn't know how to express myself. And I didn't know what to do when my back was against the wall.
And here I was exhausted. And I really just needed to chill. But we had to go to these restaurants and these different things. And I was just like, I'm glad you're telling me.
It was all foolishness.
Right, and so we had a very intense.
Sorry, I'm gonna be apologizing a little bit.
We had a very intense experience, and so now here is the primary expectation that we don't know exists. We all don't know that this exists, and that is you're going to love me the way my parents never did. You are here to satisfy my unmet childhood needs, as well as help me with my lost self parts.
Right.
Right.
And I would say, what I can say today, so anybody who has only been married like your first 5 years or so, hey, listen, I was crazy. It gets better if you learn how to be honest in a relationship. But say what you just said again.
You are going to love me the way my parents never did. You are here to satisfy my unmet childhood needs, as well as help me with my lost self parts.
So now what do I get today? You are here so that those unmet needs that are keeping me from reaching my goal in God's purpose in this world, you are here to draw that out of me, not to satisfy them.
Okay.
See, that was the problem. That's where the rub is. We think now that it's surfaced, now I get to hand you somebody else's job. If my father wasn't there, then guess what? It's not your job. That was his responsibility. You do not have to pay his bill. But it took me a long time to get these words where I could say, I am trying to get Deron to pay someone else's bills. Let me not do that, because you should be free to make your own mistakes in this relationship. I should have been free to make the same relationship. And so you said two things. You said, one, that I want someone would want you to satisfy. And what was the second part?
And the second part, you love our parents and you are here to satisfy my unmet childhood needs, as well as help me with my lost self.
There it is. So yes, you are here to help me with my lost self part. How can I be in alignment with a part of myself? If what a kingdom divided against itself or a house divided against itself will fall apart, right? And so I needed that, because what you did was you drew out what I was protecting.
There you go.
And that thing needed to come into the sunlight so it could grow.
Right.
And as long as I hid it and I didn't allow the sun to shine on it, which is the light, then it didn't grow. So by the time I was in certain conversations that didn't go well, I behaved immaturely because I never let that part grow because it was hidden. But relationships, commitment, it calls something out of you. Trust calls something out of you so that you can finish the race marked out for you. And yes, you were here to do that, but not to satisfy it, though.
You will, and I wrote these things because I needed to understand where we were, so we could have the harmony that we have today. You will always nurture me, as well as be consistent in a loving way, and be eternally available to my expectations that I developed during the romantic love phase. We hooked up for love based on the belief that our partner will help us further our own psychological and emotional growth. And many of us don't even understand we have an expectation of someone that you're going to help me to further this. You're going to help me to further my emotional and psychological growth. And that person doesn't even know it. That's why it feels so heavy when you're having these conversations.
Well, let me say this. You can help me.
Right.
But if I make you responsible.
And that's what I got. We make each other responsible.
It's when I make it your responsibility that I cross the line.
That's it.
But should you help me? That's fire. This is Earth, Wind, and Fire says, hearts of fire create love's desire. And he said when two hearts are operating with the fire, the power, remember this is about power struggle, when two hearts are operating the way God wants them the Creator wants them to operate, it creates love's desires. God gets what he desires out of both of our lives.
Right.
When we show up representing and with our feet in our own shoes instead of trying to walk in somebody else's shoes.
Right. And when we don't get that expectation need met, it kicks us into a serious mindset. And I learned this from John Gottman when he would say that, he said, and then it becomes the four horsemen of the apocalypse. And he began to say that then all of a sudden, and I want you all to know, I committed this to memory, and that was, we go into criticism. And so you didn't meet, and we turned the switch on. His childhood wounds, I had light switches up here. His childhood wounds, can I get that one up there? Yes, I can do that. His childhood wounds get turned on, and her childhood wounds get turned on. And when both of the wounds are on and they're not healed, then criticism becomes a part of what we're doing. And this criticism becomes a switch we turn on. Once I get them, I know I have them. And once I have them, I flip the switch. Once we were Once we're farting comfortably around and all bets are off. In other words, when we're able to pass gas or have passed gas in around one another, all bets are off because now we know that we are accepting one another.
You know, that reminds me, Deron, there was a time we had a good friend, a person, and I was just joking about somebody passing gas, and I said, you pass gas in front of your mother? They said, oh no. I said, you mean to tell me you got to hold them in? Around your mom? You know, oh no, and that's when I understood something about this person whose mother was a church lady, and this could have been a church, just somebody who was real conservative, maybe. Let me not say church lady,
right.
Even though this person was. And what what happened was this person that's just something that was a shame.
Right.
It was a shame, and I understand that because I had to grow in connection with my mom, and you know, and I didn't always feel free to do certain things, and I can't tell you why today because when she was alive, you know, I spent a good amount of years being free around her, but this it did expose this friend who said she never passed gas around her mother, and I'm just saying I ain't saying you go around her and just bust off, but I am saying I mean you never had a slipper,
right?
And was scared. Oh, eyes are big. I was like, you act like I'm talking about a stranger,
right?
This lady used to change your diapers, and I'm telling you, wasn't nothing great smelling coming out of that.
Right. And then the other one of the things that begin to happen is defensiveness. We become extremely defensive because I'm not healed, you're not healed, and so can't nobody talk, can't nobody say anything. Nobody can talk, nobody can say anything because we're afraid that the person's going to be offended. And they're going to now defend what they were doing. And once you have defensiveness, that drains the relationship of its life force.
Oh, absolutely. Because if you think about it, Deron, you know, I'm not a sports buff, but I think what I'm going to say makes sense. See, there's a difference between a team that's on the offense and running the ball. They're making the decisions. They're running the ball. Then somebody's on the defense spending all their time trying to stop somebody else from doing something.
Right.
That'll wear you out. And that's why you don't want to stay on the defensive because you be playing their game. And
so when I've dealt with some people and trying to say, man, you have a defensive victim mentality. And somebody says something and you think that they're hurting you or you think they're attacking you. And we're trying to find harmony in this thing, but you can feel the energy in somebody when they become defensive because their energy raises, their voices get a little higher pitched, and you realize, hey, what's happening? Why are you being so defensive? We're just talking. And so and then after defensiveness, it's stonewalling. And stonewalling is when you saying that you're listening to your friend, you're listening to your father, your partner, whoever it is, and while you're listening to them, you check out. Stonewalling is when you check out emotionally, when you decide, you know what, I'm not going to show her no emotions. If you ever watch some brothers who have grown up in these some of these corrupted educational systems, they have experienced so much pain, so much trauma, so many mothers who had not dealt with their own hurts
and dominated them
in their feelings. Right. They learn to check out.
That's the only way they could survive.
Right. And when you check out, what you're doing is stonewalling is when you are guarding your heart because you're deciding, I'm not going to let this person penetrate me right now. So it's better for me not to have any emotional looks on my face or anything, because I never want you to know that what you are saying is either right or it's touching me. Why? Because when we became vulnerable for bears and bully bears, I call them, they would hurt us. And so we become defensive, and then rarely does this act produce a positive. In fact, it ends up causing us to be consistently more distant.
Right, and how can I say this, because I shared this earlier? Being in the room is not the same as being present. it's not the same as being yourself in the room.
I got
and
you.
This is so sometimes stonewalling gets to happen and no one seems to notice that because you're in the room but you're not present. Which means the heart, your head is in the room but your heart is not in the room.
That's it. And so one lady told me one time, said he's quiet, he does not talk. And I said, he doesn't talk. When he gets around us, he's talking all the time. We can't make him be quiet. But he didn't talk with her because her tone, when she got upset, shut him down. Her tone triggered him to say, all right, I done pissed her off. I done upset her. I ain't saying nothing.
Right. I'm not going through that, whatever that is.
Right. And so we don't know that our tones really do shut us down. And so now, stonewalling is an attempt to soothe your own anxiety. It's an attempt to say, I'm not going to feel anxious. I'm not going to get caught up in that. And we end up misinterpreting it. You have anything to say? Because I'm going to keep going.
Oh, no, I was the person a long time ago because I didn't like drama. I didn't like the way my mother, in certain situations, used her emotions to win or to be right. And at some point, I could be right there and check out. I really could. And I just realized, I told myself, you know what? She just wants somebody in here so she could just say what she want to say. But I'm going to go ahead and sing these songs in my head. And I'm not going to let it in. And then before you know it, when you put that wall up, you don't let people in, but you also don't get to get out.
There you go.
So now I'm in prison.
There you go. And so now what we found out is that we were projecting these negative feelings on one another. At least I was at least. And listen, that means when your flesh takes a hit, you begin to fixate on your problems and you get caught up in a chronic addiction to trying just to feel good. But when you do that, you fail to understand you're projecting your emotions on somebody.
Right. And sometimes we're trying to feel good we're trying to feel as good in the desert as we do in a place of abundance. The desert is not a place of abundance. It's actually a place of lack. It's a place where vegetation did not grow. And we're trying to turn that wilderness experience, that experiences that is supposed to reveal something to us and instruct us. I talked a lot about the area in my life that I had to, at least one that I had to get past, but I believe around the area in your life where these negative feelings would come was when, until you came to the point where my conversation, because now I'm a bit more free to talk, and you kept thinking that I was cutting you off.
Right, yeah, you wouldn't let me finish. Right. And I realized that was because sometime in my experience growing up, I didn't get to say what I needed to say. And so when she would begin to talk, you cut me off. And then that would become the argument and the discussion as opposed to the subject matter we were talking about, because I could not be cut off. Because if you cut me off, then the next thing is you're dominating and I don't have my own self-will. Right.
And I think that the deal was that it was true that I was cutting him off. And that was an area that I had to grow in. But the negative part that you gave to it, that wasn't true. That was just my immaturity in communicating. I didn't know back then to ask questions. I didn't know how to get to get to those feelings and express emotions without use words to express my emotion instead of going off. And so I would, because then I would be excited and I wanted to say it. So I had to grow up and all that. But what would happen is when I would do that, instead of saying you're cutting me off, I'm bothered because of something my mother or someone else was doing when I was growing up, you had not gotten to that truth yet. So me cutting you off, it just became too much of a big deal. And he would say something and I would be excited to talk, and then it would just go far to the left or
0
too
to
far
60,
to the right. And I'm saying, listen, I'm sorry, go ahead, finish what you're saying. I wasn't attacking him or anything, but it felt like the atmosphere was way too contaminated over something at that time was just, again, a part of my own immaturity.
And what happens is that we unconsciously become fixated on their behaviors. We become fixated on their behavior, and we thinking about them becomes our addiction. And so now I began to set myself up and have a conversation before I walked in the house. If she say this, I'm going to say that. If she say this, I'm going to say that. And not understanding that once you become fixated on them, you're not going to buy their favorite stuff. You're not going to pick up the clothes that you need to get. If it's a step parent sort of situation, that's her child, that's his child. I ain't doing this. And you begin to say, well, I'm not putting gas in her car or gas. I'm not going to do all these different things because now you're fixating trying to inflict pain, punishment. That's what I wanted to say. So, the answer to that is, well, let me just say this. We had to make a decision that we weren't going to burn each other up. We wasn't going to burn each other up. And I think we want to come back at it. And we keep going. Go ahead. No, you. I think we want to come back and just focus on the fire. Not unless you want to do it now, because I can roll. Okay.
I'm following your lead right now.
Okay. Well, let me just say this. I only had 2 more slides to go. The man and the woman, the husband and the wife, when you study Hebrew, you begin to see the relationship, the original language, you begin of the Bible and those things, you begin to see that the word has more meaning than just husband. And as I realized, if I'm going to be your best friend and you're going to be my best friend, then we have to understand each other's fires. You have something to say?
Yes, and I was going to say form follows function.
Okay.
What does that mean? Husband was not your title. That was who you are based on your function. Jesus' name meant Savior or one who saves, because that was not a title. That was a function. And so when we say the word husband, we use that more as a title than we do as somebody who actually operates a certain which is a function.
And so studying Hebrew came into my life where I could now dissect the scriptures and really look at the sacred text in its original form and understand the meanings behind the words and the letters. And when husband and wife, what it talks about when you look at Aleph Bet or Aleph and Sheen, when the word fire is spelled Aleph Sheen. And if you look here, you see it looks like a W, but it's really the symbol of teeth. And so become teeth, and so you become a strong devourer. And fire is a strong devourer. And when you are husband and wife and you have fire, you can devour one another with your strength. You can be it serves as a strong devourer. Go ahead, baby.
Fire can cleanse and fire can destroy. Right?
Right.
And so meaning fire can refine and purify, but fire can also destroy. And what we had to learn how to do is to use our fires to refine and purify and not destructively.
Right. 2 Peter 3:10 says, "But the day of the Lord will come like a thief, and then the heavens will vanish, pass away with thunderous crash, and the material elements of the universe will be dissolved with fire, and the earth and the works that are upon it will be burned up." Fire, strong devourer, and like you said, destroy. And we almost destroyed this by not being able to manage our heat.
Well, because and what I would like to do, Ron, I would really like to do this, like just set aside, because this is
that's what I'm gonna say. It's really heavy.
It's heavy, and if you can see it, it will click.
Okay.
It will click.
By that time, I'll have this worked out.
Right. It will click. But definitely, because we didn't understand the purpose, because we tried to let men's interpretation of the Bible, who really didn't use the God's name and God's reason for naming for the word male and female, and God's reason naming for husband and wife. And when you would see that, unlike us, who we like to give names that sound unique,
right?
But in these other cultures, people's names actually mean something,
right?
And they don't name their children anything. You know why that's important too? Because when you call somebody by their name, you want to call them by their essence, not because it sounds unique,
right,
as we've gone through. And so if you would understand these cultures, then there was no one who was named something and it meant nothing.
Right.
It just sounded like something. And so this is why when we go to husband and wife and those kind of things, and when we get to that, you will be able to follow a little bit better, I believe. But where you stopped at, Deron, was that we almost destroyed each other because we had roles for each other.
Right.
Not the roles that God gave. And then here's the other hard part. Then there was a role given to me because some people misinterpreted Paul's letters and biblical letters and made it doctrine. And because all of that came in, and it wasn't Hebrew thought, it was Greek thought. It wasn't relationship, it was religion, and it was Western. And that's how they interpreted it. And then we sat and they gave it to us, and before you know it, you could I was told to put up a fine. Right. When listen, I'm only going to say this, and then Deron, then I'm going to turn it over to you, I promise. But the divine design name is Ish and Isha. Isha, right. And both names mean fire.
There you go.
Both names actually mean fire when you look at the Hebrew words with its Esh, E-S-H. E-S-H means fire. And then the other, the letter from Yahweh, which in God's name is the Yud. Yud. Right? And so
hand, arm, that's in the fire.
Right. So if Ish had four, then Yud was one of them. Right. Right? Yud was one of them. If Isha had whatever the number was, I can't think of it right now, but hers was Hey, and that's the H in Yahweh. Right. And so whatever the way God made man is he made him fire, and he put his divine name on man. He made woman fire, and he put his divine name on the woman. And so, so my point is, if you try to snuff out my fire, and I snuff out your fire, then what I do is I stop you from creating in this world what the Creator wanted you to do, and you stop me from creating this world what the Creator wanted me to do. And somebody think that they don't even want to
do that. Come on, baby, light my fire. I got you. That's what she's got to deal with. Hey, hopefully we've been able to light your fire in the spirit. While you were just talking, know that we found out in Kids Eat Free, we've got to come up with some more food and some things, because we're feeding twice, where we were able to go out on Fridays. We can no longer do our weekend backpack here in
And Maryland. We used to only do it for the kids that were in the school.
Yeah, that's
now,
right.
Because, so we knew the numbers well.
No, that's what's happening. You just helped me understand.
Right, so, but now, because of this situation, there are other people who are coming up and needing this food for
you just helped me to understand it. And sometimes some of the things that we experience, because I need perspective to be brought to me, I couldn't understand why are we running out of food. We didn't run out of it, but we just on Fridays we give it to the kids who didn't have food, or they were food insecure. And now they told me here in Maryland, they said that when they got there, people are already out in the parking lot.
Right, and they had three more than one kid in the car.
Yeah, they got 3-4 kids in the car. Asians, Hispanics, Indian, black, you name it. White people are showing up. Some people showing up with their masks, and we've had to make sure we are packing tracking alerts properly and all that kind of stuff. And it makes me to watch our government and our taxpayer dollars, where they said they would feed the children 4 days a week, but now it's only going to be 2 days a week.
No, this is what I was told, because I said something earlier that was in error.
Okay.
So what it is they feed the kids 2 days a week, but they give them 5 days worth of food.
Whew! That feels so much better.
That's what I was told. They gave them a week's worth of food.
I feel
Instead
so
of Monday
much
to
better.
yeah.
Okay. And what I still add to that, we got more people now. Instead of there being the 30 kids or the 25 kids that we did bag lunches, or the 150, it's now a lot more because people are in need. And this week, we got to prepare to be able to do that.
And food banks are going through. So a lot of things that people were able to use, you have more people now needing these helps than before.
Right. And so if you can donate to we'll go to
kidseatfreenow.com.
Right.
Even if you went to Soldiers Outreach, but it's easier to remember kidseatfreenow.com. And you can donate. And even if you wanted to know how to volunteer, I know the corona situation is going on, but our helpers and volunteers, they wear masks, they wear gloves, they wipe things down, so they still showing up. We all still showing up to serve. And
believe it or not, we found out that we end up becoming essential because we are the people, and I never knew that would take place. And we get the opportunity to carry out what it is that we're doing.
Right. And yes, and we can still feed these kids because they really, they don't know what's going on, and they've gotten accustomed to what we've been able to bring to them. And even before this corona situation, if schools were closed on a Friday, some kids would still come up there to get their
they still showed up
and get their food for the weekend. And so listen, we know that if we don't have a generation to follow us, and a generation who's not so food insecure, they can't think, they can't learn, and they can't lead, then we think the corona situation is bad. That will be a really bad situation. So hopefully everybody will step up and say, hey, you know what? If I can do a little something now.
But listen, the money you would spend on buying a movie while we're in the house, or to rent a movie or something like that, that $5, that will help us. Or $10.
Y'all not getting y'all hair done. We all got some extra time. You're not getting that hair did. Those nails did. I know those nails cost a month. If you go every month in the whole shebang, that's close to $200. Oh my goodness! Oh yeah, get your nails done, and depending on who's doing it, and if you get that fancy stuff, you're getting close to $200. And I also heard those lashes about $400 if you go to. Oh yeah, I saw a lady say it's $400 because they put them on one by one. So there's a whole lot of things that we don't do now. That means we got a little extra change in our pocket. Especially those people in the government whose jobs are secured during this situation. Listen, remember the kids.
That's all.
Remember the kids. Some of the people who used to give to them, they may be hurting right now. But if you're not hurting right now, go to Kids Eat Free, kidseatfreenow.com and show your love.
Hey, we love you. This was a little something in spirit, baby. It was a pleasure to do this with you. It has been a pleasure to be able to serve you all. We thank God that we're still able to connect with people. I don't know how many people watch. I can't see. I don't have my glasses on. And I still can't see. That's good. I don't need it to see. But I just want you to know that we love you and we thank God. And keep us in your prayers as we, too, make a lot of adjustments. Because of my health situation, I have to be extremely, extremely, extremely careful.
Which means because of his health situation, this is what love will do. And now I don't move and go out as freely as I would like some other people, because I can't afford to catch a bug and then he catch that bug for me, because then he would have to fight on a level that I don't. And so this is what love does.
If I knew it was something. Research iodine drops. Many of us are iodine deficient. And they're saying that this virus attacks those also. It is I don't say it attack, but it is very critical to those who have high blood pressure. And when you have high blood pressure, for some reason, I've been reading on it, and I had high blood pressure, and iodine drops literally will help you. Now, not with your blood pressure, with diabetes, what I want to say. It was diabetes. If you literally, they've seen studies that if you take iodine drops, but it also builds your immune system.
Okay.
And it helps build my immune system. But iodine drops, because, say for instance, if you need your medication or all those kind of things, iodine actually helps those with diabetes. And that's what I was trying to say. Not the blood pressure, diabetes. And it deals with people with hypertension as well. But to look into the researching iodine supplements and zinc, because if you are deficient in those things, your immune system doesn't get replenished. And so any viral, I'm trying to say, we'll do this at another time, Lord willing, to look into iodine supplements for people who have whatever I just said.
Diabetes?
Diabetes, that's what I was saying. I am spent. God bless you. We are thankful for this evening. We pray that you were blessed. We're going to get some rest right now, and Lord willing, we'll get to see each other again. We're going to begin to hear us doing a few more of these things. Why? Because we're not going to waste this time. And we hope, and I hope, I think brought some hearts here. We hope that you were blessed and we were able to share with you our hearts.
Wonderful.
And Bishop Perrin's former wife,
Pastor Liz,
I love you and I beat you all to it. God bless you.
Amen.